All of Us Are Dead. Hello everyone, I'm Joe Squared, and today we're here to talk about All of Us Are Dead. This is a new Netflix show that came out just on Friday. I knew only a few days before it was coming out that it was a thing, and it caught my attention straight away because one, it's zombies. I love zombies. It's like my favorite genre, up there with crime. I just love anything zombies. And two, it's Korean. So I was like, okay, Korea, they've been making some good shit recently, and on top of that, Train to Busan, which I've talked about on the channel before, that is a Korean zombie film, and it's one of the best zombie films I've seen, so I was like, this, I've got to see. And regards to Train to Busan, it's kind of a similar, vibe to Train to Busan, and they also reference Train to Busan in this. They're like, oh my god, this is just like Train to Busan. Now, the premise of this show is that a zombie outbreak, it breaks out in a high school. That is the ground zero for it. A student finds an infected rat that's in the science lab, and it bites her, and then it all just goes, pear-shaped from then onwards, and then you get this whole zombie outbreak in the school, which is just so crazy. Like, everyone's just in their lessons, or they're in the cafeteria, and then boom, people are jumping on each other, eating each other, biting each other. It's crazy. Now, the show's main focus is the students in the school. You kind of stay with this group, and then as the show goes on, you get to know each one more uniquely as it goes on, but you do have quite a lot of groups in this show in general. You see perspectives of, military people, you see the perspective of this detective, you see the perspective of like a YouTuber who comes from another town, and he comes into this infected city because he wants to see if it's true, and he's like, live streaming it and stuff, which is like a very funny way of doing. Whether I do that myself, I'm not sure. I'm kind of terrified of the idea of zombies if they ever became a thing one day. But you also get the view of like other students in school, like older students, some of the parents of the kids, so you get a lot of like different angles here, which is cool. All the characters and groups were very interesting, so the switch up between them, it was never like disappointing when it switched from one group to another. You weren't like, not these guys. It was a case of like, oh, I wonder how these guys are doing, and these guys, and they switched it well. The balance was good. They kind of give majority of the time to the students, as that's who you start with, but as you get to know a student, you get to know like, oh, so this person has like a loved one, and then you start to see the loved one perspective as they're trying to sort of reunite with them. These students were very likable. Obviously, you do get some dickhead students, and you get like, the bully students and stuff, but they still made them interesting characters. Like, they had that dynamic to them, and even at times you did pity them, and you did sort of root for them a little bit until they were sort of going up against the students that you've been with the rest of the time. But you did sort of understand each one and sort of root for them in their own weird little way. And I especially like how the students fought the zombies. It wasn't just a case of like, okay, we need to find blunt instruments to hit the zombies, because majority of the time they weren't really doing that, especially at the start. They were actually using like their athleticism, to fight them. Like, there's this one student who's really good. Like, it seems like he maybe knows his parkour and free running and stuff, and he's just like fucking drop kicking zombies. He's grabbing them, he's flipping them over. It's crazy, and it's so entertaining to watch. And there is a tension, of course, between characters at times about what the right decision to do is. What if someone's bitten? They get very paranoid, and sort of there's sabotage, there's betrayal, there's all these elements that add a whole lot of like the human drama and tension to them being surrounded by zombies, which is the real threat. But they've also got to, of course, watch out for the threat of humans, which is a common theme in zombie stuff. But I like the way it was done here between students, because they can't just like kill each other. They're students, they're not just going to do that. So you get a lot of high tense moments. And yeah, the people playing these students, very, very talented, and they got a great balance, and they did really well of bringing out the fear, the sadness when certain things happen, but also when it came to humor as well. They were really good with that, and humor was implemented very well here. It always felt like it came at the right time, and it was funny, because at the end of the day, they're just kids. They still want to have like a bit of a laugh, so they might be talking about who fancies who and crushes and all this stuff, but the way they balanced it all, and then the way it was portrayed by the characters, was spot on. And the episodes themselves were very well structured and paced, because it's 12 episodes, each one's about an hour long, which is great to see. Also, because when you click on it, I thought it was going to be like a 6 episode thing, 45 minutes, but no, it's 12 hours of content, which is great. It's like fucking 4 movies, 5 movies even. So that was just got me excited. But anyway, going off track there. The show is really well structured and paced, because it kind of takes place over 3 days, pretty much like this 12-hour thing. So you feel like you're with the characters most of the time. It feels like you never actually miss anything, because you're there with them for the downtime, you're there with them for the craziness, and you get to see loads of different perspectives sort of going along in this same sort of 3-day period, which was really great. And looking back in it, saying like episode 2 or 3 they're in a certain room, like the broadcast room, and then in episode 7 or 8 they're in a music room, but it feels so far apart as a viewer, because it's a few episodes apart, and it feels like so much has happened in between, and it has, and that's because it's set in a short period of time, and you get to see every little bit unfold. So that's really cool in terms of the way it was paced. Now, talking about the zombies themselves, they are badass, they are pretty terrifying, they are they're running zombies, they're quick, and they're very sensitive to sound. Their vision not so good, but they can still see, so they will see you from a distance and run at you, but any sound they're going to be on your case. But it's a thing of like, when they lock themselves in a room and then cover up the windows, even though the zombies knew they were in there a moment ago when they saw them, if you stop making noise, they're going to be like, well, maybe there is nothing in there. It's like they're not able to sort of use memory, the zombies. Of course, that's why they're zombies. They have no memory, but they're very sensitive to the sound and stuff. And also the way they transform into zombies is very unique. It's quite a cool and disgusting and creepy transformation from the bite, in terms of what happens to them, the way they twitch, the way the bones crack. It's disturbing, and it's because it's a character you maybe just knew, and then you see them turning into this monster. And that's the thing about this isn't a zombie show where it's like, oh, I don't know what the premise is, like The Walking Dead, like well, not the premise, but you don't know what the origin of the virus is. You never know. It's never really delved into. This is all about the virus, how it works, how it affects people differently, because it does. It affects certain people differently. They actually have different reactions to it, which was a cool element that I didn't expect. And as the show goes on, you learn more and more about the virus, sort of from the military's perspective as well, from the guy who was sort of very pivotal to the creation of the virus, in terms of how it came about. It's cool that you see all those sides, all those perspectives of it, and you learn about the virus and actually what it really is, which is one of the fascinating parts of it, because sometimes that is overlooked. It's just like, oh, zombies, it came from some lab or came from an animal or something. Like, no, you actually get a full-on grasp of what this virus is and how it works. And all this was very clever and unique, and it added that cool element to it, because when someone was bitten, it gets to a stage where you're not 100% sure if they're going to just turn into a zombie. Maybe something else is going to happen, some other mutation, based on what you've seen, based on what you've learned. You kind of get that whole angle of like, oh, what is actually going to happen to this character? Like, are they really dead now that they've been bitten? It adds that whole unpredictability to it. Whereas before, a zombie bite is literally a death sentence in any other movie or TV show. But here it's a case of like, there might be more to it than we think. Because when a character will get bitten, you might think, oh man, not that character. But then you may be pleasantly surprised about what actually unfolds after that bite. Not naming names, not saying who or what happens, but it's never completely over in this. I mean, the show in general was unpredictable. It's hard to guess where the plot will take you, and you do get some cool twists and turns, and nothing is ever that simple, but it wasn't like cliche. It didn't feel cliche to me. It just felt like it was actually hard to predict, and that continued throughout the remainder of the show from start to finish. It was just an unpredictable plot line and story in general. And yes, there are some things you might be like, oh, okay, like I kind of saw that coming, but it's never on the nose, and it will keep you guessing and curious about how it's all going to conclude by the end of it. The show did things differently, but of course it is a zombie show, so it does have to follow sort of some of the usual rules of a zombie movie or TV show, where you think, the zombie probably could have got that character. It seems like they could have grabbed them. But, you kind of have to follow it. You have to accept that to an extent. You can't get annoyed about that. You can't say that's a flaw. It's just a case of like, it's a zombie show. These characters, they need to survive. So, you let it slide. They've got to have some element of luck that I suppose it'd be written as, for them to survive a little longer. But the show had emotional moments, it had tense moments, it had sad moments, happy moments, some beautiful moments, I found myself on a bit of an emotional roller coaster with this at times, and that's down to the quality of the acting and the writing and just the story and how it all pieced together. And you really do support and feel for these students, and you want them all to make it out of there. You want them all to make it out and live a happy life and just get the hell away from this, because you feel bad for them that they've been, they're just kids and they've been dropped in this situation that they shouldn't be in, and it's almost like they're fending for themselves. Because it's just such a chaotic thing that's, just spreading like wildfire. I mean, the budget for this must have been huge. I mean, the sets are just impressive. The places they shot this. On top of that, all the makeup for the zombies and just all the extras. I can't imagine how hard this was to shoot and make and film, but it is highly, highly impressive. This is none of your low budget crap. This is really, they put money into this to make it a really well executed, TV show, and it certainly was. I love this show, honestly. I had a really good time with it. It was everything I was hoping for, when I first saw the trailer. And I think it maybe was a little bit slow to start with, and some things are a little bit unclear. I mean, I say slow to start with, it's just a case of like you're just trying to get your head around it. Slow is probably the wrong word, but you're just kind of trying to get to grips with it. It's quite a lot of information. Obviously, you're meeting all these new characters in like sort of the first episode, pretty much. You're meeting everyone. So it's sometimes a little bit hard to just grasp for a sec. You feel like you need a breather, you feel like you need to try and understand what's going on, but as it goes on, you get to know the characters more, you're understanding the situation more, and then you're like understanding stuff from older episodes more than what you were at the start. And I don't think that's down to poor writing. It's just a case of like you're not getting given all the information at once. You're getting little bits that you're not going to understand to start with, but eventually you will. This definitely put a new twist on a zombie story, a really, really cool twist as well. In particular to one element of it in terms of the way it can affect other people. I don't want to spoil it, but the way it does, it added a whole new element to zombies, and I really liked the way they ran with that. I thought it was really cool. It was actually different, and if you'd heard it on paper, or read it on paper, you would have been like, I don't think that's going to work for a zombie show. I think it's kind of stupid, but I think it was clever based on its relation to the virus and why it affected some people differently than others. I think that was, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I think it was a very clever idea. And I think it executed really well, and it added a new sort of element. I've said the word element a lot, but it added that new thing to this show to make it unique, to make it stand out, to make it different. I really, really enjoyed this, and this is, at the end of the day, this zombie show is actually about the zombies for the most part. Yes, it's about the students and the people trying to survive it, but they're thinking about life or death. They're thinking about survival and trying not to get infected. Whereas shows like The Walking Dead, maybe it was that to start with, but it just becomes a whole thing of like, where's most comfortable to live, where we're not going to get killed by another group. This was just like, infection, virus, zombies, we've got to get the hell away from that. That's all that matters, as long as we're safe. And that's what really made it such a thrill ride. I find it hard to flaw this. I can't. There's nothing standing out of me that's a flaw, and it's like I've said before in our reviews, if I'm trying to look for flaws, think of flaws, I'm struggling to find anything that I didn't like in this show. I had a really good time with it. I thought it was really good. I think if you like zombies, watch it. If you don't mind the fact that it's in Korean, which, the more Korean stuff I watch, I'm just so fascinated by the language. I think it's such an interesting language, and also I like watching stuff that's in a foreign language because it means I focus more. There's no point where I'm picking up the phone and looking at it, and if I do, I look back up, I've missed 20 seconds, I have no idea what's being said, so I have to go back, I have to watch. And I feel like you pick up on so much more. You see the emotions, you see everything for what it is, and I love that element to it. If you're into zombies, watch this. Don't get put off by the fact that it's foreign or anything. If anything, you should be encouraged, because the stuff that's coming out of Korea is really top quality. With Train to Busan, Squid Game, Parasite, and now this. It's just, wow. It's very, very promising. They could easily take over cinema one day, because they're bringing out some amazing stuff, and they've got incredibly talented actors. I would give All of Us Are Dead a 9.5 out of 10. Really, really good show. This came out of the blue. I had no idea it was a thing that's coming. I saw a little trailer the other week and I was like, holy shit, I gotta put that in my diary, because that's exciting. That looks awesome. And I think it was fantastic. If you've watched it, please let me know what you think about it. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. It is really, really good, and it's great fun, and it's just a great story. And yeah, it's terrifying. Zombies, you know, it's worst case scenario. It's the last thing we want, you know. COVID-19, sure, that's fine, but zombies, hell no. Anyway, I've been Joe Squared. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching, and yeah, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you're new. Let me know what you thought about it, and yeah, thank you very much. See you in the next one. Bye bye.